Hey guys, this is Kelsey from the Arcane Library, and I'm here today to walk you through my latest adventure, The Shadows of Lastwatch Keep. Oh yeah. I'm going to do this wearing my Gary Con hat because I just got back from the con a couple weeks ago, and I still don't want it to be over, so I'm just reliving it every day by wearing this wizard hat. So here we are. But anyway, you guys are here to hear about this adventure, so let's get right to it. Shadows of Lastwatch Keep is for 4 players or 5 of 4th level or 5th level characters. It was designed more for 4th level characters, but if your party is small, 5th level would work. There's a way to combine some of the enemies to make this tougher, so you could actually have this be a successful run with maybe 5th level players. So, the background of this adventure, this is a one-shot, so it's meant to be played in one sitting. So it only has about 3 potential combat encounters and then a couple social encounters. Plus a little bit of trap and trickery because we're talking about drow here. So what has happened to kick this adventure off is the players are in a northern frontier town. It needs to be in an area with maybe mountains and some snow, the threat of avalanche, because recently there was an earthquake that caused avalanches, and unbeknownst to people, it caused some tunnels from the underworld, which is the non-trademarked version of the Underdark, to erupt into this old abandoned keep called Lastwatch Keep. And so the drow, being clever and opportunistic, decided to explore upwards and enter Lastwatch Keep and determine whether it would be a good staging point for a possible invasion or place where they could exert influence upon the surface world. So, unfortunately, when they got into the keep, they encountered its resident, who was an old chimera who fought with them, ended up collapsing the small tunnel that they came up through, and caused this drow sort of scouting and strike team to become trapped in Lastwatch Keep with their goblin slaves. So now the drow have been sending their goblins out into the countryside to suffer the sunlight and collect some food and supplies so they don't starve to death while they try to figure out how to get out of Lastwatch Keep. And this is where the players come in. So the players are traversing a road, probably on their way to or from this northern frontier town, when they hear this loud scream cut the air. And this is bad because there are avalanches that have been happening recently, and this loud scream causes the snow on the mountains to start trembling. So the players will need to figure out what's causing this in the first section here called Strange Echoes. And the players are going to have to investigate, more or less. And so when they discover the source of this sound, it turns out to be coming from 2 goblins who've been trapped in a net trap. They've stumbled into some kind of hunting trap situation. So these goblins, Snarg and Iggle, are able to be spoken to. They're sort of restrained by this net, so hopefully the players won't take this as a combat encounter, although they could. But there's not much fight to be gained from combat with Snarg and Iggle, and they're the vehicle meant to deliver these adventure hooks to the players about what's happening in Lastwatch Keep. So even if the players choose to fight them, Snarg and Iggle have some things they can say and some offers they could make that would at least let the players know there are drow nearby. And most adventuring parties would take that as a sign of trouble. So ideally, even if Snarg and Iggle don't survive their encounter with the players, at least they can deliver enough information where the players know they have to go take a look at what's happening. If you hear a siren, it's because I live in New York City and there will never be a 5-minute span without a siren, so I'm leaving it in. So, next, when the players have been given adventure hooks, if they decide to go to Lastwatch Keep, that may not be immediate, but we want to instill some urgency with what the goblins tell them, so there's some information in there that you can communicate to the players in the adventure hooks. And feel free to play that up. Say, they're gonna, the goblins might tell the players, oh, the masters will be free soon, but we just have to find food for them in the meantime. Anything you can think of. So, once the players actually head toward the keep, we come to our entering the keep section right here. And the players have hopefully planned well enough to bring some cold weather gear because Lastwatch Keep is about 3 hours up into the mountains. It's both cold and it has thin air, so they could suffer exhaustion levels if they're not wearing something that will protect them from the cold exposure. So when the players first get into Lastwatch Keep, I want to show you the map that you're going to be referencing during this. It was drawn by Jake from Beware the Wizard. absolutely awesome. Check it out. You can see it through this ring light right here. Let me pull that back. Oh, here we go. If I do this, you can see it pretty decently right here. Yeah, check out this map. This is beautiful. I love Jake's style, and I'm so glad that he decided to join me in this effort doing cartography for this adventure. And the cartography of the map actually matches a Dwarven Forge build that I did that's part of a giveaway, which is how you might have heard of this adventure. So if you're the lucky person who wins that Dwarven Forge, you have everything you need to build out this adventure. And if you don't win, you still have a really awesome map from Jake that you can put to use right away. So when the players first get into Lastwatch Keep, they're probably going to be approaching from this southern portion right here. Through here. Yeah, you can see that. They're going to be, I have a light so that it gets dark in here, and this light is just glaring on my screen. I hope you can forgive that. But they're going to be coming up through this entry right here into this set of rooms. And as they progress, they're going to probably catch the notice of the drow who are hiding in those rooms. And so the first encounter is the players either being surprised by or potentially surprising some drow and goblins who are lurking in those sets of rooms. That's a pretty dynamic combat encounter. The goblin slaves that the drow use are well-trained combatants. Drow are no slouches, even with the people that they force into servitude. So you're going to have drow attacking from the west and goblins potentially attacking through a secret door from the north, doing a pincher action on the players. And the room itself that the combat may take place in has an unstable floor that could fall if any great weight is put onto it. So hopefully that makes for a pretty dynamic encounter that has a lot of interesting elements. Spellcasters are going to love that because there are crowds that they can try to deal with using their area effects. Anybody who is really sneaky and manages to get the jump on the drow, which is hard, will be rewarded by that because they're not going to be probably suffering this pincer attack. So once that encounter resolves, the players will hopefully stand triumphant and they will get access to some loot in that room that will give them more insight into what's going on here. So there's a note in there about a drow or a person called Gulaira saying the Chimera dragged her away, and that's some foreshadowing to later on in the adventure. And there's also some pretty cool magic treasure in that room. So, moving on, once the players finish that part out, they're going to enter the cave portion, or they're going to be approaching the cave portion. On their way there, there's a room with some water. The wall has collapsed and a natural spring has sort of come through the wall. And in that room, there's actually a goblin who is anchored to a spike and chain in the floor. The drow left him there as a way to slow and or be bait for the Chimera, so that if the Chimera comes to attack their position, they'll at least maybe have a delaying effect with this poor sacrificial lamb of a goblin. So the players will get a chance to interact with this goblin named Franck. He's completely helpless. There's probably no point in engaging him in combat, although surely there will be groups who do. And if the players engage with him or even save him, he not only will be grateful, but he will actually be helpful, and he has some information for them. And it's worth noting, Franck is not actually evil, so the players may find that out through spellcasting or even just through talking to him. He's chaotic neutral, which is, everybody knows, the safest way to not be evil. And so I hope that maybe some groups will end up maybe adopting Franck or saving him or at least releasing him. Now, he may tell the players that he saw some drow come through very recently with pickaxes, and I hope that that will spur the players on to realize the drow are going to make a last-ditch effort to try to escape. So that will naturally transition them through into the cavern section, which is the second part of the adventure. The players can either go north or south once they do that. If they go south, they are going to encounter Gulaira. She is a drow in the dark cavern section who had a confrontation with the Chimera, survived, and is now nursing herself back to health sort of in the southern part of the caverns. There's a small room down at the southern point that has a natural chimney exiting the entire cave system, and that's actually where the Chimera comes and goes from when he wishes to. And Gulaira is currently assessing that place as a possible escape point, although going out into the sunlight is probably one of the worst things a drow would want to do, so she is hiding in that room. If the players come down to that area, Gulaira is she's not trying to let any survivors learn about the drow incursion here, so if she sees people, she's going to know they know too much and definitely attack them from an advantageous position if possible. It's very likely that the players won't spot her because they need passive perception scores of 20 or higher, so she'll probably get the jump on them, and if she does so, she's a very deadly combatant in that round that she gets a surprise attack off. So use that to apply some pressure to the players. Gulira herself, she may actually investigate noises up into the northern part of the cave. She can walk on the ceiling with spider climb, so she certainly would do that. And feel free to use her in any part of that southern cave portion to get the jump on the players and make sure they remember that it's not safe here. She'll try to escape if possible out that chimney if put to the sword, if pressed. So also note that there are some bats that may join that combat sort of on a timer just to create some more chaos and prevent it from becoming just a toe-to-toe fight. Gulira is very mobile, very cunning, and she may even try to capture somebody and barter for her safe release, and she is no fool, so she will not accept false promises, and I would have a lot of fun with her becoming potentially a future villain if she escapes or somebody who really puts the players to the test. So, following the encounter with Gulira, the players may never encounter her. She is meant to be sort of a mobile and stealthy foe. So if you're getting the sense that you want the players to have an encounter with her, but they're not going into that portion of the caves, it's acceptable to have her creep up north at any sign of any sounds going on and maybe sneak attack the players. But one thing I would not do is have her attack them during this final fight, because that's already keyed up to be pretty tough and pretty tense. So having Gulira as an element in that fight too would make it into an extremely challenging fight, so be cautious about that when you're DMing. However, the final section is the Sleeping Beast, and that is when the players will encounter the sleeping chimera named Old Redclaw, who is sleeping in the northern part of the caves while two drow are very gently trying to break rubble away from their exit point. It's sort of a last desperate bid for them to get free of Lastwatch Keep and escape back down into the underworld. So when the players come upon this scene, the challenge is going to be, the dramatic question is going to be not just defeating or holding off the attacks from Old Redclaw, but stopping those drow from escaping with the intel they have about Lastwatch Keep. So that final fight is the chimera will very likely wake up. I'm sure it will happen that some group out there sneaks by him without waking him up, but his passive perception is 18, and any sound louder than just a soft whisper is enough to wake him up. But if the players somehow get past him without the confrontation, that's really cool, and I would reward that by letting them get away with it and keeping Gulira in your back pocket as an alternate boss fight that would be extremely cool instead, because she's very stealthy too. So once that final kind of room is resolved, then the adventure itself is mostly resolved. We'll know in the aftermath section that follows some options for how to continue the story. If Gulira or the Chimera escape, that could be some future villains or some cool story hooks to follow. Or the players may choose to explore down into the underworld. They may now realize that there's a potential drow invasion coming, and that could turn into a longer campaign in and of itself. So once that is done, you have some options for future adventures and a new monster, a drow commando that you can continue to use. I'm sure there are more of them, and I hope that this makes for a fun session. So let me know what you guys think about this adventure. If you came across this because you participated in the Dwarven Forge giveaway, then thank you for doing that, and I hope that you have fun with this. And thanks for listening to this walkthrough. All right, I will catch you guys later. Bye-bye.